All right, welcome everybody. My name is Alan. I'm the chair of the Department of Management and Marketing, and I'm here today talking to Ashley Cox, who is gracious enough to join us. Ashley, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and how you got interested in your career field.
Yeah, so one time I got to play flag football with the Indianapolis Colts. And so I don't like generally how people start off and say, well, you know, this was my job and this was my career, da, 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 da. So I wanted to throw like a little fun fact out there and let you know that my career and professional development provided me with that opportunity. And now I get the chance to work for myself in a consulting field in professional development. And I specifically work with women who own businesses and lead teams of employees. Primarily, my client has anywhere from 2 to 20 employees. They usually have a brick and mortar location or some sort of product-based business, even if they do business online. And it is such filling work. I don't just do it locally here in East Tennessee, but I get to work with amazing clients all across the country and all around the world. I've been doing this for about 4.5 years now, and every day I can tell you is honestly a brand new adventure. There's always something to learn. There's always something that kind of pops up during the day that you have to navigate. Some new challenge comes along, and I really believe that the career that I have right now is 100% supported through my experience working in the corporate world. Where I spent 10 years after I graduated from college. And I spent time with 2 major companies. I spent time with Kroger and then with J. Crew. And with Kroger, I actually was an hourly employee that went into management and then into human resources and professional development. I didn't intend to go into professional development. It was totally by accident. But I think that's kind of the cool thing about how your career works. It's not linear. It's not here's step 1 and then step 2 and then step 3. I mean, some people's careers are like that, but not a lot of people. And one of the cool things I think about looking back on my career is that I had mentors and I had people coming alongside saying, hey, try this, or what do you think about doing this? Would that interest you? Or I see you're really amazing at X. I think this would be the best next step for you. And so I really believe that those mentors gave me opportunities I would have never even known about, and I would have not really even thought about. And had I not been open to those, I wouldn't be sitting here today saying, I own my own business, and it's all because of the experiences that I had the opportunity to learn throughout my career. So that's just a little bit about me. Personally, I am an extreme extrovert. I have never met a stranger. Everybody is my friend. They may just not know it yet. I live here in East Tennessee with my husband and our dog, Mila. She makes frequent appearances on Instagram stories. So if you are into Instagram, you can connect with me over there at ashleycox.co. And I love to share the personal side of life as well as the business side, because I really do think that the two are intertwined. And if we take the human out of the job, then we're missing the most magical part of what we get to do every single day. And that's helping others learn and develop skills and become stronger, more passionate, more productive, more excited, more happy, whatever that end goal is for you. You've got the opportunity to truly change lives in this field. And that's probably what I love the most about it.
Awesome. You mentioned something there that I talk a lot to my students about and encourage them quite a lot is mentoring. Mm-hmm. One of the things I tell my students is early in your career, as soon as possible, find somebody who can serve as a mentor to you, because they can tell you a lot about the mistakes that they made early in their career and how you can avoid those same mistakes. And they have a ton of knowledge that they're waiting for somebody to pick their brains about. And people love it when people ask them about their careers and, their mistakes, what they did well, what could they learn from. We all love to give back to other people. So there's a wealth of information. And as you know, the research clearly shows that mentoring has very beneficial effects when it comes to career progression, salary, number of promotions, even something like health. Mentoring has been shown to have a positive effect on. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because I really try to encourage our students, find someone who could serve as a mentor, because that's extremely important in your own career.
Absolutely. And that's really one of the reasons too for how I've positioned my business. And if you look on my website or you look on my social media, I talk about mentoring a lot. A matter of fact, my tagline for my business is Leadership Mentor for Women. And I'm a huge advocate for mentoring, especially for women, especially for young women, because the opportunities that you have are going to be so much more expansive when you have a mentor, because they don't only provide you with a great sounding board, somebody to help you work through problems or to share advice and mistakes made and lessons learned, but they give you the opportunity to expand your network in ways that you don't have access to otherwise. Right. And I think that's one of the biggest opportunities, especially if you're in a corporate environment, finding those mentors who are a few steps ahead of you, several steps ahead of you, because they've got connections with senior executives who can invite you to a seat at the table, to be able to be a part of some really important conversations and some meetings. And I know that the mentors that I've had, both male and female, have done everything that they can to make sure that I'm included, I'm invited, I get to sit at the table, I get to ask questions and be engaged. And you can't just have a mentor fall in your lap. That's usually not how this works. So you've got to be proactive, and you've got to outline, what are those goals that I have for myself and my career and my personal development, and who is going to be a good fit for that, and start asking. That's one thing that women have a tendency to not do that men are doing, and that's not being bold enough to put your hand up and say, I want to be mentored. Are you willing to mentor me? And really seeking out those opportunities. I'm super passionate about that. So I could stand on that soapbox for quite a while, but it's really important, and you need a mentor.
Yeah. And again, don't wait for one to fall in your lap. Go ask somebody. Ask somebody you trust, who you respect, who you look up to. And I can almost guarantee you they'll say yes, and they'll give you whatever they can. They'll help you out however they can. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities. So Ashley, I know you have a new book out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book and some of the themes in it?
Absolutely. So it's right back here on the shelf, if you can see that teeny tiny little book. My book is Transform Your Stories: How to Overcome the Toxic Stories that are holding you back to become a more courageous, confident leader and impact the world. And this book is written specifically for women who are thinking about becoming a leader or moving up into a leadership role, or who have been in a leadership role and maybe they find themselves struggling. And the reason I wrote it is because I've lived through this. It's, being on the leadership journey, it's interesting, and it can be very tough and very challenging. And there's a lot of things that we tell ourselves that just simply aren't true. And I work with women every single day who say things like, I'm just not really sure I'm cut out to be a leader. Well, where are you getting that information? Who said that? And so one of the common themes that I always talk about in the book, in my client sessions, in trainings, in conversations and talks like this, is to really be mindful of the things that you're telling yourself. If you think you can't, there's a good chance you probably can't. But if you think you can, you're going to be so much closer to reaching that goal, or learning a new skill, or becoming a leader. And so I often challenge folks to ask themselves, is this true? I'm not really cut out to be a leader. Is that true? If not, what's true instead? Well, maybe I'm not a leader right now, but I've had leadership experiences. I led a volunteer effort, or I lead my family at home all the time, cooking dinner and managing schedules and navigating 1,000 doctor's appointments. I've led in my church. I've led in my community. There's almost always an opportunity where you have had the chance to lead or to step up. And so if you say, I'm not really cut out for this, I want you to dig into that a little more. Is this true? And if not, what's true instead? And is this something that you want to do? So that's what we kind of go through in the book, is breaking down those toxic stories that we tell ourselves. I share a lot of tips and strategies for how to self-talk and navigate that. I share a lot of personal stories in there. So if you want to peek behind the screen and you want to see when I'm not so confident or when I've battled my own stories, I share a lot in there, and I share client stories and I share stories from friends, and of course everything's anonymous, but I love that opportunity to connect with people through the written word. I've always been a reader, and I think it's one of the best ways that we can get to know someone else and also get to know ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things you mentioned was that self-talk. When I teach our MBA class in strategic leadership, I use a book by a guy named Bill Gentry, and it's Be the Best Boss that people want to work for. And he calls it mind chatter. Mm-hmm. And he said, pay attention to the things that you tell yourself, your mental dialogue that you have with yourself. And you probably don't notice it until you start telling yourself bad things about yourself, right? And you start believing that mental dialogue. And he pointed to lots of research that has shown that simply by changing that mental dialogue with yourself, it can change your outcomes for yourself in a positive direction. So I'm glad you touched upon that in your book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how can people get a hold of your book?
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon. If you just search Transform Your Stories, Ashley Cox, it'll pop right up. Don't just Google my name though into Amazon. There's another lady out there writing some books that I didn't write. It's a little bit embarrassing, but so now everybody's going to go and Google. I know.
Yeah. Well, now I have to Google it now.
Now you have to check it out. So I'm definitely sending a lot of business her way. But those are not my books. My book is just this one. It is bright teal. You can't miss it. But it's also on my website. So if you went to ashleycox.co, you could navigate to it from there as well.
Excellent. Excellent. So you mentioned a second ago what you love most about professional development. Can you expand a little bit about that? Why do you love that one thing, and how did you become interested in that thing?
Yeah. Oh gosh, y'all, I'm just naturally, and I'm very in tune with my emotions. So forgive me if I, get choked up, but this is my life's work. And so it's very much a part of who I am and the way that I show up and serve in the world. And so, oh my gosh, I have so many stories just kind of like exploding in my mind right now about why I love professional development so much. And I can just see the faces of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with and to help navigate seemingly impossible, sticky, hard situations. And I think professional development is so much more than just showing up and giving a training and feel everybody feeling like rah good about it and leaving. It's the day-to-day conversations. It's the one-on-one interactions that really makes up the professional development, and that gives you a peek into what that person is experiencing, what they're feeling, how they're reacting to or responding to certain triggers or situations, and being able to have those private conversations where somebody really opens up about what they're struggling with, and to give them some tips and strategies. And then for them to come back a couple days later, or a week later, or a month later and say everything has changed is just like, I've got goosebumps all up my arms. And, I did that in the corporate world, and I do that now with my one-on-one clients. And I remember the year before last, it was 2018, I was working with a client who really thought she was going to have to let this employee go. And she came to me and she said, here's everything. Blah, blah, blah. She just kind of like, word vomited all the issues that she'd been having. And through a series of a few conversations, we put together a plan, and I gave her some strategies and things to use. And this was I think it was in September when we started working together, end of August, beginning of September. And she said, I don't think she's going to make it to Thanksgiving. And within just a couple of weeks, that employee started to change around and was a completely different person and quickly became one of the best employees on her team. And 2 years later, almost a year and a half later now, she's still there. She still has a job. And what's so impactful to me about that is that that leader now feels more confident. She has the skills that she needs to lead her team successfully and to navigate hard situations. So she's coming into it with more tools, more skills, more confidence, which is amazing for any leader to have. But then also, she was able to keep an employee. An employee was able to keep their job. That person's now still able to provide for their family. And that ripple out effect is just so monumental. And I always want you to think about that. Every conversation you have, every person that you interact with, whether it's in a group setting or it's individual or it's virtual like this, you have the opportunity to change not just one, but 5, 10, 100, 1,000 lives, because how they go out into the world after those conversations has an impact as well. So we either have the chance to build them up and help them create more positive experiences for others, or we have the opportunity to tear them down. And I think that's not to be taken lightly. That's a huge responsibility. And we get the chance to show up and do that every single day. Oh, yeah. I mean, all the emotions. It's really fulfilling. I'm grateful for what I get to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things when I teach leadership, lots of times people who go into first-time managerial or leadership positions often underestimate how much of an impact that they have on the people that they're leading. And I often use the example of people who, when they take on leadership positions and all of a sudden the people that they are leading begin to talk and act and think rather similar to the person that's now their boss. And we don't really notice, it's kind of unconscious how we do that. But I use that as an example of, the responsibility that we have to the people that we do lead, because they're taking their cues from us. Mm-hmm. We are leading by example. And if we don't take that seriously, we can end up doing a poor job at leadership because people are really looking up to us to guide their own behavior. So
absolutely. And I often will say to my clients, if there's a problem with your team, there's likely a problem with the way you're leading your team. And people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But it's often true. 99% of the problems we experience with employees are a direct reflection of the way that we're leading them. And so, you think about that as a leader yourself or as someone who might be coaching or training leaders and teams. Because it's, we can usually assess a problem pretty quickly once we get the full picture. And it's often to do with the leader themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So you may not have one, but what's your least favorite thing about professional development?
Oh gosh, let's see. My least favorite thing. I know I talk so passionate about it. It's almost like, does she hate anything? Yeah. When people don't believe in development, I think that would be the thing that I've struggled with the most throughout my career, is when you have the naysayers or and not specifically the person coming for the training or development. I got them. I can handle those people. And they will be converts by the end of whatever training session we might be doing. But it's the people in charge. It's the leadership. It's the top of the company. If you don't have a company or an organization or a department or a manager who believes in the value of development and training and professional development, it is hard. It's heartbreaking, and they don't understand that impact. But with every challenge comes an opportunity where you can step up and you can educate and you can talk about the importance of training and development. You can talk about how this ties to the things that matter most to them, the bottom line. How are we going to reach the result or the goal that we have set forth this year? A lot of times, even in today's age, people still look at training and development as an expense. And sure, it is an expense, but it's an investment in the future. And if you want a different result, you've got to take a different action. And so if you can tie your professional development to those very specific and clearly communicated goals that the company or the department has set forth, you can win people over so much better. But you better be able to measure it, and you better know how you can deliver on this. Don't just tie things together just to make it sound good and to get somebody, to approve your project. But it really does. I think that's probably my least favorite part is when people don't understand and don't see the value in training and development. But again, you got the chance to change minds, so do it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Especially with our students in HR, in our HR concentration, traditionally HR is treated as the redheaded stepchild of business, and it's really an unfair tag, because HR is really driving the business, the people side of it. But you have to, what I'll often tell my students is, you have to make that connection to the business necessity, right? You have to make that connection to, if you do this, you'll save money, you'll make money here, you'll develop your employees, and there'll be more outstanding performers, which will lead to better outcomes in the long run. You got to be able to make those connections and not just say, well, it's a cool thing to do and it's the right thing to do. You got to make those connections.
Yeah, it's not just a trendy thing.
Right.
It's truly a strategic part of any successful business. And so, positioning yourself as a strategic business partner is going to be the best approach for sure.
Absolutely. So, do you have any books or articles that you would recommend to our students or other people who might be interested in getting into professional development?
Oh my gosh, so many great books. I guess it really depends on what you are needing, but one of the most, I guess, game-changing books that I've read, and then training opportunities that I've been a part of, is the Oz Principle. And it's all about individual and team accountability. And I tell you, I learned so much about leadership from this one book that has carried through, oh my gosh, since 2008, I think is when I first read it. So 12 years ago. Oh gosh, that's a long time, y'all. But this has been one of the most pivotal books that I've read, because there's so many very relatable and relevant concepts that are in the book, from how to get your team to take ownership of something, to seeing it through, to problem solving, to putting the problem into action, and then behaviors, and kind of going back to that mind chatter and the toxic stories that we were just talking about a minute ago. It talks a lot about, are you going to play the victim, or are you going to rise above that? And when you do, the question you ask yourself is, what else can I do? And I tell you, as an HR professional, as a leader, as a business owner, as someone who mentors other people and does a lot of different projects and work in the community, that one line has changed everything. And it's something I constantly am asking myself. Okay, this is a really frustrating situation. What else can I do? Okay, that didn't really work out as planned. What else can I do? Oh my gosh, coronavirus is taking over the world. What else can I do? And it's just an empowering place to be able to go. But don't, it's not a super exciting read. It's a little bit dry. The training program that goes with it is much more engaging. It's actually based off of the Wizard of Oz characters. And so it takes you on these journeys with each of these characters. But muscle through the book. It's got some incredible concepts that you'll highlight, dog ear, whatever, and come back to time and time again for sure.
Excellent. Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah.
If one of our students was interested in professional development, what should they be doing right now to start preparing for a career in professional development?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. I think one of the most important parts is educating yourself on the position, the career path that you really want. What are the skills that a person needs to have to be successful in professional development? And what does professional development mean to you? So there's a lot of different ways that I define that career path. It could be that you are putting together trainings and delivering those to large groups of people. It could be that you are facilitating conversations, one-on-one. It could be that you're doing, like line level training, and you're helping people develop so they can move up into those senior level positions. So figure out what area you're interested in and start finding someone to shadow. Ask questions. Ask them what they need in order to be successful in that type of career, because I really think that professional development just spans so many different industries and different types of career opportunities. So talk to people, get out there, put yourself out there, get in front of them, ask questions. And I would say for me, one of the biggest skills that I think that you need to have as a professional development person is the ability to listen with the intention to understand what that person is saying. And I think that transcends any type of professional development that you will do. Because if you're not listening to understand, then you're just regurgitating information, and that's useless.
Right. Yeah. It goes back to the saying, seek first to understand and then be understood, right?
Yeah, because you can't help someone if you don't truly know what the issue is. And that goes for senior level management. That goes for your line level leaders. That goes for your brand new employees. It is all about listening and understanding, and then creating an approach that really makes the most sense for that person or that situation.
Right. Yeah. And as you were talking, I couldn't help but think about, when we're doing professional development, we often think of it as only specific to the job, but really, you're really getting at the root of personal development, right? Because you can't just improve as a professional and not in any other area, right?
No.
I mean, your professional development really impacts all areas of your life. And for it to truly have an impact, it has to touch on every area of their life, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, they're not mutually exclusive whatsoever. Every time you work on yourself personally, it will influence and impact the professional, and vice versa. And I honestly think there's not a time when you don't need professional development, ever. There's never a time.
Right.
It's interesting. Well, maybe for someone whose job literally never changes, but that's not usual. You know how quickly the world changes, and how one day we could be doing something step ABC, and the next day it's like, let's do QRS. And like, even if you're doing the same job, the processes change, the people change, the environment changes, new systems are implemented, new technologies come out, and so things are always changing. And so there's always that opportunity for professional development. And if your career looks like my career, I changed jobs every 1 to 2 years, all through corporate. I never was in a job for more than 18 months to 2 years. And then I was getting antsy. I was thinking, I need something different to do. And even now in my own business, yes, I've had this business for 4.5 years, but it's changed and evolved, and there's different iterations, and I offered different services than I did just 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. And so that requires ongoing learning and development. I'm always researching, always reading, always finding mentors and having conversations that influence and change the direction of my own business. So it doesn't end, right?
Right. Yeah. It's really lifelong learning. And that's, it's funny because I'm on a committee of other department chairs, and we're working right now on redrafting our job duties as chairs. And we put in there, we need to have professional development yearly on an annual basis, right? Because no one who steps into this role knows how to do an effective job from day one, right? I mean, there's so much learning that has to happen, and our job changes almost on a daily basis. I mean, look what we're doing right now with coronavirus. I mean, we're having to lead a department and students in a whole new environment that we've never been used to, right? So I think that part about continuous professional development, it really should be something that we want to do. We want to get better, and we want other people to try and get better too. So it should be something that we're all doing.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to lead by example. If you're
Right.
not, investing in yourself professionally, there is no way on this earth you can talk somebody else into doing it.
Yep. Exactly. So if you were to be back in school right now as a college student, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you had known then?
Have patience. Oh my goodness. Y'all, if I had a dime for every time I thought I should be at the next level and I should be doing this and I should be there and I should, I wasn't there because I needed the lessons that I was learning in that moment. And now I look back on that 14 years into my career, I guess. Yeah, I guess from the time I graduated college to now. And I think, wow, every single step, every single no, every single not quite yet, every single, why don't you try this first, was very purposeful. And I couldn't do the work that I'm able to do now if I hadn't gone on that journey first. So have patience. You're going to get there. You've got your entire life ahead of you. Learn and soak up and absorb every single experience and opportunity that you're given every step of the way. And I promise you it will pay off.
Absolutely. So if you had to choose one thing, what one thing are you most proud of accomplishing in your career?
I mean, I guess it would have to be starting my own business. Like, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, starting my own business has been, honest to goodness, I don't even know why I didn't even say this earlier. It has been the main source of professional development that I have ever experienced. It has challenged me in ways I didn't even know I needed to be challenged. I've grown by leaps and bounds. I feel so empowered and confident and valuable in this world. And I think that if you can do a career that you absolutely love with amazing people that you adore, and you can also make money from it, that's kind of like win-win-win. And so I'm really stinking proud of this business that I've built and the impact that I've been able to have.
Awesome. So if you could leave our students with one piece of advice right now, most of these folks are graduating seniors. What one piece of advice would you give them, would you leave for them right now?
Well, I have to share with you my favorite quote. I've had it on every bulletin board, every whiteboard, and every office that I've ever had since I graduated from college. And that quote has inspired me in ways that I didn't know it would when I was 20, 22, 30, and this age. And so that quote is by Andre Gide, and the quote goes, "Man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore." So be courageous, be bold, put your hand up, ask the questions, ask for the mentor, get that seat at the table. Do not let life and your career happen to you. You go out there and make it happen.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Let's open it up to questions from our students. Do any of y'all have a question for Ashley?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say hi, Ashley. I really appreciate the last quote that you had. I remember seeing that in your office thinking, yes, that's literally what I need right now. But yes, great talk. Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Olivia. It was awesome spending time with you, and you've got such a bright future. I can't wait to see what you do.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts? Like, I'm here for it all.
Hi, Ashley. I actually don't have a question, but my name is Brooke, and I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with us and just giving us some really great advice and positive feedback. Your optimism radiates and helps put a little bit of light into the day during these current darker times. So I do appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I believe that was Brooke that was talking.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I think that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Your mental fortitude is what's going to carry you through. There will be businesses that won't make it through this, and I'll be darned if I'm one of them. And I think that any challenge that you come up against, you can get through it. And the cool thing is we are getting through this, and any career challenge that comes up, any derailment to your career plans, anything that goes the way that you just weren't planning for, your creativity and your perseverance are going to be key in overcoming those challenges. So thank you so much for sharing that, Brooke. And if you guys want to connect with me, I'm usually just pretty much like this on Instagram and sharing, what I'm going through and experiences that I'm having and encouragements. And one of the things I shared this week on Instagram that really resonated with a ton of people is that having anxiety and being a successful leader are not mutually exclusive. You can both be in this moment and feeling anxious and uncertain and worried and fearful, and you can still show up and serve, and you can still take care of your people, and you can still be positive light that's in this world. So if you like that, then you can come on over and join me. Also, yesterday I sang a song on Instagram, a rap song that went along with something I was talking about. So every now and then, you just never know what you're going to get over there. It's a lot of fun. Anyone else?
That's one of the, just to echo that, that's one of the things, again, I talk to my students about in leadership, is bouncing back in the face of adversity. I mean, you're going to get beat down. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have to pick yourself back up. And you're going to have to show other people why they should do the same thing. And, none of the things that successful people have ever done has ever been, something that they thought up of the first time and they got wildly successful. It's something they've worked really hard at a lot in their life. And we only see the end result, right? So you got to keep in mind all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into, all the great things that we've done in our history. And if you want to achieve those things, you got to put in the work, but know you're going to get pushed down, but you got to get back up and keep moving. And I think of it as just a daily exercise. If I get knocked down today, I'll get right back up tomorrow and keep moving, and life moves on.
Yeah. So another resource for you guys, you have to look up Brene Brown. She's like one of my favorite in all the world, and she just is really raw and open and makes you feel like you're not so alone when you're experiencing really hard things. But she talks about how no one who has had massive success has gotten there without a string of failures.
Oh yeah.
And having to be vulnerable. Like, starting a business is the most vulnerable thing I think I've done. Writing that book is absolutely now the most vulnerable thing I've ever done. And I think that your position in leadership is 100% vulnerable from start to finish, because everybody's watching you. Everybody's waiting for you to screw up. Everybody is going to call you on it when you do. And I can remember some real cringy moments when I was early in my leadership career, and just like forehead slapping moments, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. And having to come back the next day and say, I screwed up. I'm really sorry. Here's what I can do to make this right and move forward. And not being able to just go and hide and ignore it, but you have to address things head on. And so it is definitely an exercise in vulnerability, and it makes you learn a lot of really hard lessons right in the fire, but you will be stronger for them, I promise you. And then you can help other people when you get the opportunity to do so, like I've got today.
Yep. Yep. Other questions? Well, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna stop this recording, Ashley, and then we can stay on if there's any questions other people want to ask. But I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And if there's anything that we can do for you in our department at ETSU in the College of Business Technology, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're really appreciative of your time, and thank you so much for everything you do for us.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's always a pleasure to partner with you, Alan, and also with ETSU. I think the work that you're doing is making such incredible impacts in the community, and I'm just honored to be a part of it in some small way.
Awesome. Thank you so much.